Alright, so welcome to the next section where we're going to talk about Excel functions. In the prior session, we talked about building formulas, basic calculations. Now we're going to take advantage of some of the more built-in tools to get Excel to perform the calculations or automate some of these calculations for us. This automation of calculations is called functions. Now before we jump in and start to dive into the magical world of Excel functions, I want to nail down some of the concepts of a function. Most importantly, the structure of a function. Because once you understand the foundational elements of a function within Excel, you're going to be able to work with the basic functions and understand how the more advanced functions behave and want to be developed as well. So take a look. These are some of the foundational basic elements of any function inside of Excel. And I built a little PowerPoint to demonstrate this here. So first thing, and this is one that we've already discussed, every single calculation that you create inside of Excel, from the most basic to the absolute advanced, including functions, they all start with an equal sign. That's a given. We nailed that down in the last section. Always start your calculations with an equals. This allows Excel to recognize that, hey, what this person's about to type into the cell, B5 or E20 or whatever, is a calculation. Now, because we're now discussing functions, the next thing that happens is you specify the function name. There's many different functions, a couple hundred different functions that are built inside of Excel. Some of them are a little more basic. We're going to take a look at a few of the more common basic functions of Excel during this session, and there's some that are very, very advanced. But you got your equals, you got the function name, such as sum, or average, or min, or max, or VLOOKUP, or if error, or SUMIF. You got all these functions. Really, they're built-in calculations. By specifying the function that you want to use by its name, next, Excel knows what arguments are going to be supplied or needed for this function. So each function has a set of arguments. And essentially, the arguments just tell the function what it is that you want to work with. In the case of a sum function, it wants to know, well, what's the range of cells that you want me to sum up? That would be its arguments. Oh, it's cells A5 through A20. That's the arguments of a sum function. Something like a VLOOKUP, a more advanced function, would have multiple arguments, asking you for multiple bits of information. Now, let me show you an example. With the sum function, we got the equals, we got the function name sum, open a parentheses, now we have the arguments. In this case, it's just a range of cells, A5 through A6, close the parentheses. Three little parts. But once you've mastered the understanding of, hey, we need equals, you need the function, what type of function you're performing here, and filling in the appropriate arguments, we now understand the basics of basic functions and the most advanced functions out of the box within Excel. So here I am back inside of the example file that comes along with this course, the monthly budget 01 document. Now that we've got an understanding of the building blocks that make up a function, equals, function name, function arguments, let's now start to build some of these functions. We're going to start off with perhaps the most common, the most basic function inside of Excel. This is the sum function. Now, I'm calling it the most basic, but it is the most commonly used function inside of Excel. You'll use it perhaps daily as you're working inside of Excel. So take a look. This is how you work with the sum function. Now, I've already got some calculations in here. I'm going to wipe out these old ones. These are the ones that we built using the standard formula format. Equals this plus this plus this. It got the job done, but it was very tedious. So I'm just going to grab those. I'm going to wipe them out of there. Let's get rid of these as well. I don't need that. Now my percentages just errored out on me because I don't have anything to calculate anymore. That's fine. I'm going to leave the errors there because it's trying to divide by numbers that don't exist, essentially a divide by zero. So we'll leave that as is, but we'll come back to it. It'll get fixed as we continue to develop this worksheet. So now I'm going to jump down to B10. This is where I want to input the sum of the January amounts. Okay? So remember before we said equals B5 plus B6 plus B7. Again, very tedious. It got the job done once again, but perhaps not the most efficient way for us to develop an addition or a sum calculation. So now in steps the sum function. Excel is going to automate this experience with just a little bit of input on our part. So I'm going to click into the B10 cell. That's where I want the formula to show up. I'm going to go up to my Formulas tab. In the Formulas tab, there is many different ways to perform calculations. For a sum function, there are multiple ways to do it. For right now, building blocks, understanding the basics here, I'm going to go to Formulas. I'm going to go to Math and Trig. This contains all the Math and Trig type functions. I can scroll through. There's some in there that I use pretty regularly. There's some in there I've never used. Now let's find the one called sum. There it is. I'll give it a click. This is going to open up my function arguments window. So remember, first part you got the equals. It's actually already built that for me. Okay? The second part is we've got the sum function. That's what I just did here. The third part, and that's what I'm about to do here, is the arguments. A sum function wants to know a range of cells. And look at that. B5 through B9. Does that sound right? B5 through B9. It's already done it for me. I don't even have to do anything. I can just hit OK and I'm done. Now, if it didn't put this in here, let's just delete that out for a moment. Excel is super smart. It tries to anticipate. So it already did it for me. But if it didn't do it for some reason, all I need to do is my number one argument is just come and grab the correct range of cells. I'm just left clicking and dragging B5 through B9. And there it is. I hit OK. And I've now summed up, I've added up the January amounts there, 1,700. Let's try this again. I'm going to click over inside of cell C10. I'll go back to Formulas, back to Math and Trig, scroll down until I find the sum function. Dun, dun, dun. There's sum. Opens up my argument window. Look at that, it's already got it. C5 through C9, that's the correct range. Now once again, if it didn't do it, you can always grab it, type it in yourself, click and drag. Just get the correct range of cells, the cells that you want to sum up. I hit OK, and I'm done. 1790. Simple. If I double click on one of these cells, you'll see the formula. Equals, sum, open parentheses, get the range of cells, the argument, close the parentheses, and you've got your function. Super simple. Beats having to do this plus this plus this. Use the functions, use them to help automate and streamline your experience in here. Again, this is the most common function used inside of Microsoft Excel. We're going to take a look at a few others, but practice this first. Finish off the row there for the totals. Go do the column there for rent and phone and credit card and so on. Finish off the summing of these different calculations. All right, so we've just taken a look at the most common basic function within Microsoft Excel, the sum function. We're going to take a look at two other very common functions and just as easy to create. We're going to look at the min or minimum and max, maximum function. Find the smallest value from a range of cells or the largest value from a range of cells. Take a look. So inside of the example file, I'm going to click inside of cell A12 and I'm going to put a couple of headers here. We'll say min, hit my enter key, and I'll do max, hit my enter key. So these will just act as the row headers. Now I'm going to go over to B12 and I want to find, in this case, the smallest value that I've paid out for my different bills, the minimum value. Now, how did we build the sum function earlier? Remember that? We went up to the Formula tab, we went into Math and Trig, and we found sum. Now, min and max, are they Math and Trig type functions? Are they text functions, logical, financial, date, time? Where's this at? Well, I'm going to show you a really quick way where you can find any function. Rather than trying to dig through the books and make sense out of, well, which category should this be found inside of, I'm going to go to the far left of my Formulas tab and go to Insert Function. This opens up my Insert Function window where they give me a search box. I'm just going to type in min. I'm going to hit the Go button. And now it's searching. It's going to search through all of its many, many functions that are built into Excel. There's min. And they give me a little definition. Returns the smallest value or smallest number in a set of values. Ignores logical values and text. I'll hit OK. Takes me into the argument window for my min function. And look at that. It grabbed B5 through B11. Is that right? There's B5 down. Oop. I don't want the total and I don't want this empty cell. So I'm going to change that. I'm just going to grab the correct range. B5 through B9. There's my arguments for the min function. That's it. I hit OK. I just found the smallest minimum value from that range of cells, $50 right there. Okay? Min function, very similar in setup to the sum function, but now you're performing a different calculation or different operation and finding the smallest minimum value. Now let's try the same thing with the max. It's going to look almost identical. It's just going to perform a different operation. It's going to find the largest value. Same steps. I'm inside of B13. I'm going to go to formulas, insert function. I'm going to search for max. Hit my go button. There's my max. I'll hit OK. Look at this. It's practically the same. It's just a different function. I don't want B12. I want B5 through B9. I'll hit OK. And I just found the largest value, the maximum value from that range of cells using the max function. So two more very common functions, min and max, very similar in setup to the sum function, equals the function name, min or max, a range of cells that you want to build to find the largest or smallest value from using one of those functions. Try it out. Finish it off for February and March. Find the largest value and the minimum value, the smallest value, from those two columns. We're going to take a look at another very common function inside of Microsoft Excel. And this is going to look very similar to the sum and min and max functions that we've already discussed. That's one of the beauties of these functions. Once you understand the workings of these basic ones, we're just going to build on it. And they're all very similar. They just perform different operations. Summing, find the minimum, smallest, find the maximum, the largest. Now we're going to find an average. I want to know the average amount that I've spent for each of these months. So still inside this example file, I'm going to drop down to A14. And I want to find the average for January. So I'm just going to type in a header here. I'll just call this average. I'll hit my tab key so I go to the right. So now I'm going to build this calculation that finds the average amount that I spent for January. Now, if you were to do this manually, maybe whip out your calculator or drop out a piece of paper and write it out yourself, how would you find the average? You know, for me, I'd have to add up each of the bills, 1,200 plus 50 plus 100 plus 300 plus 50, get that total, and then divide it by the number of entries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1,700 divided by 5 would give me the average. Well, that's quite a bit of math that I got to go through. Here inside of Excel, we have the average function that's going to do this for you. Take a look. So I'm inside of cell B14. Back to my formulas tab. Back into insert function. I'll find average. I'll just type that in. I'll hit go. There's my average. So it returns the average arithmetic mean of its arguments, which can be the numbers or names, arrays, or references that contain numbers. Great. It's going to find an average. I'm going to hit OK. Let's see. B12 through 13. That's B12 through 13. That's not what I want. I want B5 through B9. Very similar setup. I mean, you could have almost closed your eyes and done this. The only difference between this and what we did earlier is you're now doing an average. Not a sum or a min and max, but the setup is the same. I hit OK, and I've now got my average amount for the month of January. Once again, really simple. You just got to know the functions are there and how to use them. Try it out. Finish it off just like min and max. Do it for February and March as well. Find the average amount that you've spent for each of those months. All right, we got one more basic function that I want to make you aware of here. This is another pretty common one and a very useful one. This is called the count function. I want to be able to count the number of values that I have in a range of cells. Now, the count function counts very specific data. A count function counts numeric data. Take a look. Once again, I'm going to drop down into my little worksheet here, A15, and I'm going to put in a header, call it count. And now I want to count the bills that I have, the bills that I've paid perhaps, because the count function will only count numeric values. Watch. So I'm inside of cell B15. Once again, back to formulas, insert function. I'm going to search for count. I'll hit go. There's my count function. Do notice there's a couple different types of counts. We'll maybe perhaps talk about some of these other ones, more advanced ones, way later in a different course. But for now, we got just count. I got count. I'll hit OK. Same setup as the sum and average and min and max. Just wants to know the range of cells. So I'm going to grab B5 through B9 and I'll hit OK. And I've now got a count of the total values in there. There's 5 of them. 5 numeric values inside that range. Now this is a great one. It's a simple one, but remember the count function counts numeric values, which means, what if I didn't pay credit card this month? I just delete that out. Gone, deleted. How many is it counting now? Well, I only paid 4 of them now, right? Credit cards is gone. So the count function, counting numeric values from a range of cells. Try it out again. Do it for January, finish it off for February and March. Count how many bills you have in there. Won't be a big surprise. You're going to get 5, but try deleting one. Make sure that your count function is only counting those numeric values. So we talked about a number of different functions that we can use inside of Excel to automate the creation of formulas within our Excel worksheets. The very first one that we talked about was the sum function. And I had mentioned that the sum function is the most common, the most popular function used inside of Excel. Now, Microsoft knows this. So they've created a tool inside of Excel to help us automate the use of the sum function. This is called AutoSum. Take a look. I'm going to wipe out my totals here. I'll get rid of these. That's B10 to E10, just delete them. And I'm going to delete out my totals here as well. For the rows, that's E5 to E9, just delete, gone. And I got the errors back again because it's trying to calculate something that's not there. But I'm going to rebuild them. But I'm going to do it in a slightly different way this time. Take a look. So we could type it in, equals this plus this plus this. We could use the formula bar and find the sum function and fill in the arguments, tell it what range of cells to add up. But remember, the AutoSum, most widely used function. We have a feature called AutoSum that's essentially going to do this for us. Take a look. I'm inside of B10. This is where I want to sum up the January amounts. Now, I'm going to go to the Formulas tab. Right next door to the Insert Function button we were looking at earlier, I have AutoSum. It's a big E. I give that a click, and it's going to sum up the data. It already grabbed it. Equals sum B5 through B9. That's right. Yay! I hit my Enter key, and I'm done. 1700 right there. Let's try it again. I'm going to click inside of cell C10, back to Formulas, back to AutoSum, summed it up, C5 through C9, hit my Enter key, done. Saving you time, becoming more efficient. One more time, this is just too quick. Into D10, Formulas, AutoSum, equals sum, D5 through D9, hit my Enter key, done. Love it. Now you might be thinking, you know what? Why didn't you start with this? That's super easy. It's a single button press. It does it for you. Well, there's building blocks. Understanding the concept of what a function does, how the sum function works. Very good information. Now, I love the AutoSum feature, but remember those building blocks. Understanding conceptually what happens when you sum something up. It's only going to benefit you. And here's the reason why. I'm going to hop up to E5. I love Excel, I love the AutoSum feature, but sometimes it doesn't do things quite right. Watch this. So I'm in E5, I want to sum up the rent. So back to Formulas, back to AutoSum. Ooh, did it do it right? Equals sum, B5 through B10, that's right. I grabbed the rent there. What am I talking about? I did it right, I'll hit my Enter key. 3600, ding. All right, let's try this again. Phone, Formulas, AutoSum, B6 through D6, summed up the phone. It's looking good, looking good. I'm going to hit my Enter key. Ta-da. Now, let's try this a third time. All right. So now I'm down at credit card. How does Excel know where to look for the data? How does it know what you want it to sum up? It's pretty smart, right? I mean, it's done it correct so far. I'm going to go to Formulas, back to AutoSum. I'll give it a click. Yay! Oh, wait a minute. Did it do the right range? E5 to E6. That's the cells above it. I want to sum up the credit card. Well, no big deal. Excel by default looks up first for 2 or more numbers. If it finds 2 or more, that's what it uses. Now because there's 2 or more up there, it used those, and that's not what I want. So all I need to do is grab the correct range of cells, B7 to D7. That's it. I'm just correcting the AutoSum. Hit my Enter key, and I'm done. Let's try it one more time. Go back up to formulas, AutoSum, grab the incorrect range of cells. I'll grab the correct, hit my enter key. Ta-da! I'm just correcting it. But understanding the fundamentals, the building blocks, why and how the sum function works is going to help you in situations like this. The AutoSum button is great. I love it. Just make sure that it's grabbing the correct range of cells. Try it out. Use the AutoSum function to complete your calculations here. Now earlier we were talking about cell references, and we saw that there were two different types of cell references, relative and absolute. And the way that I was describing it back in that lecture is when we were copying and pasting the formulas. And based on which type of reference you use, the formula would either do the exact same thing over and over again just based on relative position, or it would have an absolute cell reference that it would always use. Now, I want to take this idea of copying formulas to another level. But this still involves relative and absolute referencing, so keep that in the back of your head as we see this new feature. This feature is called Autofill. Take a look. This is going to streamline your efforts in building your calculations. So once again, I'm going to delete out the sums that I've done. I'll get rid of the row total here, just delete. And I'm going to get rid of this column total here, delete. All that hard work, right? All right, I'm going to show you a really quick way to do this though. So I'm inside a cell B10. I want to sum up January. We know how to do this. Type it in, use the AutoSum, use your formula bar, create a sum function to do this. So for me, I'm going to do it a quick way. I'll do formulas, AutoSum, grab the correct range of cells, hit my enter key, and I'm done. Now, I want to perform the same thing for February and March, right? Well, earlier we saw you can copy and paste. Here's the autofill feature. I'm going to go back to the 1700, cell B10. In the lower right corner of that cell, I got a little box, little box. And if I hover my mouse over that little box, I get a little plus sign. That's the autofill feature. I'm going to left click, hold down my left click button, and drag over to March. 2 columns to the right. Let go. And I've now copied the formula over to those next 2 columns. This is the autofill. It's essentially just copy and paste, but now let's just click and drag. Let's try this again. I'll come up here to E5. I'm going to sum that up, just formulas, AutoSum. Okay, yeah, I grabbed the correct range of cells. I'll hit my enter key. Now I want to do it for the rest of the bills. Well, I'll go back to 3600, grab that little box in the corner, make sure you get that little plus sign, left click and drag all the way down to E10, let go, and I've now copied or autofilled that column with the formulas. Really simple. Create one formula, then just drag it. And it's going to perform the same operation like copy and paste, but now just click and drag to copy your formulas using the autofill. So try this out. Create the one formula, click and drag it. Create the formula up above, click and drag. Make sure you're right on that little box. It's kind of small, so just make sure you're right on top of there. Get that little black plus sign and drag it.